Alrighty traders, hello everyone. So right now it is, as you can see, I'm not sure if you can see that time. Anyway, it's actually right on 3 o'clock in the morning. I got up at 2:30 in the morning this morning. I'm just so excited about the opportunities and everything that's happening right now in these markets and just in life in general. And I wanted to do this message for you before I get into the gym here. Now, by the way, the reason why I do my gym now is because my trading, the way that I personally trade now, I only look at the market when I'm doing my actual trading is the last half an hour of the US markets. That's when I'm scanning for opportunities because I'm not looking for a lot of trades. I'm just looking to get into trades and then hold it for a few weeks to a month or more. Makes sense? And have a big profit. That's how I tend to do really well throughout the year, is not day trading, getting in and getting out a lot. And then when that's the reason why I'm scanning the markets the last, say, hour, really, and particularly the last half an hour of the US market, because I'm looking to get in. I'm managing my positions. And again, I've always found, for me personally, that the easiest way for me to be able to get ahead of the markets is not to be very active, because when I'm active, I'm emotional, I'm making bad decisions, I'm over trading, I'm revenge trading, and all this sort of stuff. And that's on the topic of this video here. And one of the reasons why I want to do this video for you. And because everything really shifted for me in a much more easier way once I started to understand the nature of like the trading and stuff like that, and it was sort of like a reverse psychology maybe. And when I'm talking about this here, right, when I first started trading, I always thought that, if I day trade, meaning I'm going to trade the futures markets, I'm going to be looking at the 1 minute charts, the 2 minute charts, the 5 minute charts, and I'm going to be trading those, right? Because if I trade those and it's futures markets or it's Forex markets, it's any of these markets out there. And if I sit in front of the screen, if I'm a day trader, if I sit in front of the screen looking at the markets for 2, 3, 4, 5 hours a day, I can take trades, I can make money, and then that could be my job. And if any of you guys are going down that path right now, and it's one of the reasons why I'm doing this video here, is to tell you guys to just not to quit. I'm getting emotional right now because I've just passed my 20th year trading the markets, and I remember my first 5 years trading. My first 5 years, entering these markets, the financial markets, and not even knowing what anything was. And it was so hard because it was so hard for me because I was trying to learn the art of actually trading. Like, what is this thing called the financial markets? What is this thing? Because I grew up from a landscape gardening background, meaning like my father owned a landscape gardening business, so I went and worked for him, rockeries and gardens and sprinkler systems and different grasses and retaining walls and all that sort of stuff. So that was my background. It was landscape gardening, or landscaping. So when I entered the financial markets world, I didn't know what the financial markets world was. So I went down what's called the discovery phase. And you guys may be there right now. And the discovery phase for me was like, let me see if I can just turn this. There we go. Okay. So the discovery phase for me was, you're discovering these markets, aren't you? Right. And unfortunately, that takes a lot of time. Unfortunately, it doesn't have to take a lot of time, but it did for me. And the reason why is because, you just don't know what you don't know, right? So especially if you guys been trading the market, say, less than 5 years. I remember my first 5 years, I was buying all the courses, right? I was doing all the seminars, and, I would fly around the world to see traders and get coaching and do different programs and see, and then, because I'm going through the discovery phase, because I didn't know anything about the market. So I'm discovering the market. What's this thing called technical analysis? What's this thing called a chart? What's this thing called a pattern on a chart? and then all these different indicators and all these different things, right? And you go and you go and you go, and then you start to and then you start to see that, and then you start to see the different styles of trading where you can do like more like shorter term trading, where you're getting in and getting out really quickly, and then you're pretty active, right? You might be taking 2 or 3 or 4 trades a day, and you're pretty active in the markets. You're looking for opportunities to take take trades and looking for trades that way, right? Because you're like, okay, I want to try to make an income. I want to try to make an income this week, right? Because you're like, okay, if I can make $200, $300, $400 a day, if I do that every day, that's a good income for me, right? And so then you go down this path here, and so I learned all about all these different things out there. And after about 5 years, I found myself within the first 5 years. I don't remember exactly when, but within the first 5 years, I found myself $250,000 in debt. Now, how that ended up coming to pass was, the truth about that debt was, I started to trade really well. Like I started to get a lot of traction, and I started to do well. And the way I was actually doing well back then was I was trading the way that I trade now, meaning I was looking at the market the last half an hour a day, and I started learning from my very first mentor, and this is when I started learning about options trading, and trading options. Now, what I was doing is I was looking at the markets the last half an hour of the day. I was looking to see what happened on that day, and I was looking for the get in that next day. And then 2 or 3 days later, I'd look for that short-term move on the charts, and then I'd get out, make 50, 60, 70% profit sometimes, 80% profit sometimes, on that. And that's the way that I started to do really well, is I started to trade that method. Now, I was trading that method, but then I was also learning a lot about the whole, futures markets and all that sort of stuff. And then what ended up happening was, I actually went down a path where I bought a house, and it was actually a private sale of this house that I bought, and it was a private sale. He was selling it privately, and I saw this house, and I called him up, and I bought the house privately. I bought it off this guy, and he saw my finances, and then he saw my trading account. He's like, "You trade the stock market. You're doing quite well right now." I don't remember the exact numbers, but he goes, "Oh, can you do something for me?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure, no problem. Like, I can help you out." And so he lent me $200,000. Right, so he lent me $200,000 at that time, and what ended up happening was the thing that happened at that time, and I'm just trying to make sure that I make sure I tell you guys about the situation here, was the truth about that at that time was, when I got the money, I sort of freaked out from him. And so then I started looking to see where I started getting access to these fund managers and stuff like that. And so I said to him, listen, I don't feel comfortable in trading your money, investing your money. Like, I don't feel comfortable doing this. This is your money. But there's this fund manager who says we're doing 5% per month. How about we put it over there? And he agreed. He said, yeah, no problem. And I gave all that $200,000 that my mate lent me to this fund manager, right? Because I'm like, oh, this is not my money. So I gave it to him. Now, when I originally signed up for this $200,000, I personally guaranteed him a $50,000 profit at the end of 12 months. So at the end of 12 months, he'd get his 200 grand back plus a $50,000 profit. That's what he was guaranteed. Personally signed, guaranteed to him. But after we signed that and he sent me the money, then when I called him up and said, listen, I don't feel comfortable, let me do this, I sent it to the fund manager. Anyway, so the fund manager within 12 months actually went under and went liquidated. I got about 10 grand back after all that. And so therefore, that's how I became $250,000 in debt. And then now the guy who lent me the money, that same guy was now threatened to bankrupt me. I didn't have a lot of money back then. I had about maybe 50 or 60 grand back then. in my account, so I didn't have enough to cover that, and then also the the legal expenses and so on and so forth. So and it was at that time where I started to freak out, right? And then I started to like get under the pressure, and this is one of the reasons why I'm doing this video here for you guys, because I know right now, right, it can be quite tough, right? You got bills and expenses starting to rack up, right? And you're trying to get ahead in life. You're feeling the pressure right now, right? And you just want to get ahead, and you're trading the markets, and you're spending a lot of time doing that and learning that. And then when I started to feel the pressure, I started to trade really bad. Prior to this, when there was no pressure, I was working my normal job at the time. And then I'd be looking at the markets, half an hour a day, making my decisions, and I started trading really well that way. Like the pressure was off, right? And when the pressure was off and I didn't have to trade every day because I didn't have to rely on it, I actually started making more money. I started doing really well. But then when the pressure was on, holy shit, I've got a $250,000 debt, and and I've just married my wife and all that sort of stuff. Holy shit. And so then the pressure was on, right? And it's something really weird. Prior to this, I started trading well. Because the pressure was off. And the reason why I was trading well is because I didn't need to trade every day. There was sometimes where I went for a few weeks with no trades because, well, there's actually no good setups right now. I'm just going to wait for a good setup. That was my mentality. And then something what happened is when I started to realize that I needed to make this money back, that's when I went really heavily into day trading. And so that's when I started spending 6, 7, 8 hours a day, sometimes 10 hours a day, looking at all the markets, right? Trading all the markets. It was the futures markets. It was the stock market. It was the, all these different markets out there. Oh, by the way, guys, if you'd like to learn the actual trading system that I used, if you go to John's Free Training, or there should be the first link in the description there, johnsfreetraining.com. I teach you my number one trading system I use to this day right now. Out of all the systems, my number one trading system I use, and I teach you that for free on. I just teach you that for free. So go to John's Free Training and I'll teach you that. And so then when the pressure was on, then I started trading shit, man. I think I had maybe 60 grand back then, and then within like a few weeks, I blew like 10 or 20 grand of that really, 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 really quickly by trading a lot. Go. I've got to make money. 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 And the pressure was on. And then I started going backwards even more. I'm like, oh my goodness, oh shit, I have a mortgage payment now, and I've married my wife, and and I'm trying to take care of her, and I've got this big debt on my back right now. And then on top of all that, now my friends are telling me that all my friends are saying, you're an idiot. I told you shouldn't get involved in these financial markets. It's, and who do you think you are? And I told you weren't smart enough. And then my mother and father-in-law started having a go at me. And I was like, oh, shut the fuck up. Leave me alone. Oh my goodness. And it was so tough, right? It was so hard because I didn't understand a lot about what I now understand now. And so one thing I started to realize a lot so much here is that I was trading really well when I didn't need to make the money. But and the reason why was because the art of just waiting for good setups, I was making more money, maybe taking a couple of trades a month on really high quality trades, having my losses, and looking for good quality setups than I was looking at the market because I was, I've got to go, right? And some of you guys may be there right now, right? You may have something happen to you. You may be in a situation where you may be looking at the markets for a few years right now and you're just struggling, right? You're watching a lot of these YouTube videos and you're struggling. And I wanted to do this video because I really want to sort of impart on my journey is that when I started to sit back and realize why was my mentality, right? It was the overtrading. And I'm seeing a lot of traders right now, like they're getting in and getting out and getting out. I think the market's got to go back up. Oh, this YouTube video said, right? And they're like this. That has never made you long-term success in the markets, right? This whole What's made me so successful in the markets is being okay with not taking a trade. The thing called the patience, right? There's a thing called patience. And that's the hardest thing, right? Especially when you need to make money back, especially with me back in the day when I had to have $250,000. I had to pay this $250,000 back. Otherwise, he was going to send me bankrupt, even though he said it was okay me giving his money to a fund manager, I personally, who cares? I signed the paper. And so then after all this said and done, I end up losing the house. I had to move in my mother and father-in-law spare bedroom, and we just slept on a mattress on the floor, and man, that was fucking shit, absolutely fucking shit. I'm like, here we go, all right, because everything was just getting really, really tight. And so through that process, I started to really learn the art of what does it really take to get ahead in the market this year. Right, the way that I'm thinking about these markets, trying to make money every single week, trying to trade a lot every single week. There's something not clicking here, right? And that's when I started to realize that there's this thing called 7 trades to 6 figures, right? And I'm going to put up on the screen right now. And when I started to see this here, I'm just like, there's 7 trades, right? So that's 7 doubles starting from $1,000. Now, obviously, you wouldn't start with $1,000, but it's a template, right? It's a template for you guys to understand. Once I started to realize that I don't need 7 trades a week this year, I need maybe 10 to 15 trades, 10 to 15 really good trades this year. Some are going to be losses, some are going to be small profits, some are going to be big profits. But if I can start to identify just even one really high quality setup that's likely to make a good move, and I only get 10 to 15 trades of those this year, I'm likely to do really well. And that's when everything started to switch. I started to understand the nature of how do I have a really good year this year? And then when I started to notice this pattern, that's when everything started to really shift for me in a big way, because I started to, and the hardest thing, right, was then actually every day waking up and not taking a trade, not being active. And that's when I had to work on the mindset of a successful trader. The mindset of a successful trader is that patience, right? That discipline, that consistency, showing up every day, week after week after week sometimes, and not taking a trade. Because then I realized that I'm only, as I said before, I was only 7 really good trades away from having a 6-figure trading account. And then I was only 10 really good trades away to having $1 million trading account. Right? Now, there's obviously a lot that goes into that. So once I started to do this, everything started to switch for me. So traders, if you do need some help with all this sort of stuff and you sort of resonate with this story, then I can help you out, right? There's a lot of things I can help you out with. If you go to getjohnshelp.com, that's GetJohns help.com, getjohnshelp.com. That's an application form for my Inner Circle program, where I'm basically with you. Sometimes I'm with you every single day for an hour, really holding your hand and coaching you and walking you through, everything I've talked about today, the mindset, the thinking habits, the mistakes you're probably going to make, and all that sort of stuff. If you're down this path and you really need some help, then I know I can help you. So I want you to do this right now. I want you to go to getjohns, JOHNS help.com, and I can really help you, right? Have the right thinking